Okay, we finally made it. I think we got this thing working. Welcome to Domain Camp. I may have led you astray. This whistle means hey Felix, this whistle means I probably sent you to the wrong link, but I'm here. This will be recorded and hopefully some people show up. You really don't have to be here live. That's the whole intent of the way that we're planning this, but this is the start of the first week of some activities. I'm Alan Levine, or Counselor Cogdog, and I'm here with my Reclaim Hosting t-shirt, my whistle, which I should probably never blow again. Yeah, and people are asking about the live stream, so I may have to stop and tweet this again. Sorry about that. Google Hangouts messed me up. So I will blabber a little bit. It's really not critical that you watch this live, but I'm going to respond to one tweet that I had to change the URL, which is a bad thing to do for your first week of camp. But I can't promise you, but no, nothing about the socks. Nothing about the socks. Never mention the socks. We do have some people watching, so pretty much my plan is to publish sort of an overview of the week on Tuesday, or if not ready, Monday, and then give you some things to do. This is really not a class per se where you have to follow me along, but the idea is I'll use this time to just give you some information about what's going on this week, do a little bit of screen sharing, overview of some of the steps, and then have everything written out in the activity bank where you can pretty much go along and hopefully follow instructions, try these things. Things will break, links won't work. I'll give you probably the wrong information on what to click, but I'm going to go right now and get into the screen sharing mode, and I'm going to switch over to hopefully my other web browser and application window. This is such a good thing. Domain Camp. Wow. All right. So, sometimes these things just happen. So you're gonna get a little bit of inception here as I bring over my Safari window. So here we are to Domain Camp. You may have seen the information about this. This will give you the information about this whole thing, how it works, etc. And right now, we're into week one, where we're going to get our very first start into this thing called cPanel, deal with creating some temporary welcome areas to our site, and a little bit of managing some things with the file. There's a lot that's going to be covered. There'll be confusion. We'll lose people in the woods, etc. And so just be patient as we get along, knowing what to do here. But the first thing is, of course, you're going to need a domain account. This is not to be confused with having your domain hosted on WordPress.com. This is a complete internet hosting package. People in Ontario extend. Active people will be provided with yes, I see that, Nurse Killiam, but my thing is not set up. I didn't get the go live option, so I screwed up and had to do something else. But what you're going to need is an account from these folks at Reclaim Hosting, just to give them a plug because they're cool. Some of you already have accounts. If you're in Ontario Extend, you may already have gotten one of these accounts. You may have created one on your own. And again, you could be with a company like Bluehost or etc. But this is the place, the people who are offering the web hosting, which gives you, again, more than you get necessarily with necessarily a WordPress.com, which is really not a domain of your own. It's a domain of WordPress.com. So let's not get into that right away. But mostly you want to make sure that you can log into your client area. There should be a link that does this directly that you got in your first email. from Reclaim Hosting. If you don't have it, you're going to have to contact them and make sure you can get your login information. Mine's been saved on my computer, so when you come into your account, this is sort of your first entry. Gives you some account information. Pretty much, there's not a whole lot you need to do here per se. Nearly all the time, we're going to be going to this place called cPanel. And this is generally the easiest way to do it because the client area for Reclaim Hosting will get you connected into your cPanel. If you're with another web hosting company, there might be a different way to go about this, but this is really what we're looking for. And it's like, oh my God, what is all this stuff? So this gives you many tools. And I have to say, I've been doing this for a number of years, and I've used about 40% of these. But there's a lot here that you don't necessarily have to worry about. Later next week, we're going to get into installing applications like WordPress. But most of the things we're going to be doing this week are going to be here at the top. So it's always important that you know how to get to your cPanel. And this will become more familiar after you've done this a couple times. Everything that we're doing this week is going to be more or less done from these first couple places. So getting back to what we're doing in week one, we've said hello to cPanel. Say hello, cPanel. Hi there. There is a link to sort of a document that gives more or less the steps that I've given you already. But a couple things that are going to happen. Our first activity is going to be doing something put something right at the top of your domain. Now, if you've been doing this a while, you may have a blog there, and we'll show you how to put that someplace else. But if you're brand new to having your domain, and this is sort of the thinking about your domain, is thinking about it as being not just one website or one blog, but many that you can choose. And what you want to be, if you're domain.me, is to think about when people go to that as a web address, what's the first thing they're going to see? So it's perfectly fine to have a blog there if that's what you want. That's what I have at cogdogblog.com because I started way back when. And I've put other domains, which might be my welcome area, but I'm not talking about me. Anyhow, what we want to do with this, if you're brand new, is use a tool within your cPanel that allows you to quickly put just a temporary page. And so we're going to use this thing called Site Publisher. And so within your cPanel, I'm going to open this Site Publisher tool. And if you're new to this, now I've had a couple things going on here, but mainly my domain is called extendlabs.ca. That's where I've been doing some of my demo work and creating things for camp, etc. And so if I go to that site, right now I have sort of one of these temporary things that were published with cPanel, but pretty much this is saying right at the front at extendlabs.ca or whatever your domain name is, you want sort of that to be your landing page, the place you can put in your Twitter handle or perhaps in your email footer. That's the first place people will go to find out about you. So once we've done that, we're going to go to this template area. Now, these are not necessarily the greatest sites in the world, but they're enough to get started. And I've recommended either the about.me one, the personal one, under construction, which I have right now, but I'm actually going to switch to sort of this one called Arial, which is kind of like a page with your name. So I'm going to put my name as Extend Labs, and we make stuff and break stuff. On all these fields, and basically this is building a small website for you based upon the information that you put in the fields. I already have, or let's pretend I have, an email address. It can be any address. It can be your Google Lab, or Google Mail address, extendlabs.ca. I don't do Facebook, so I'm not putting it there, so it won't show up. I'll put in my Twitter account for Ontario Extend, and that's all I'm going to worry about. And pretty much it's filling out a form, clicking publish, And boom, I've just made a website at the top level of my domain. And when I go here, oh, that's pretty nice. Well, I've only got my email, so I must have messed up something in the Twitter lab, but it's got my name, my tagline, and it's got this mountain sliding by. And so very often the first thing that will happen, you can go back and I can come back to my template lab here. And let's see, I put my Twitter, that actually looks okay. So something must be going on with this template, why the Twitter name didn't show up. But your first reaction to this is going to be like, oh, I don't want blue, or the font's wrong, or I really don't want mountains sliding by. And that's okay. That's going to be later. In next week, we're going to show you how to install something that's a little bit more complex that you can customize here. But we just want a placeholder here at extendlabs.ca because we can do things, and I've already done this, and we're going to add some more today. I've actually installed another one of these placeholder sites. They're okay. They're not horrible per se. And there's this one is called, I think this is the welcome template. It's got more text information, whereas this other one is a little bit more simple, kind of would have your social media stuff if I actually got the Twitter right going in here. So again, don't get wrapped up in how it looks now because we're going to do something better here eventually. So this whole exercise is really to get you into the cPanel. Now I'm back here in the site publisher just to review. I go home. If I want to go and go back to site publisher, I can, I can redo this. I can actually maybe I'll go back and say, like, I don't really like that one. Maybe I'll go back to this under construction one and say, this is a different template. This one is, yes, you can tell this is just a placeholder. And this is just to have something in that site because in place of sort of the temporary one that you get. So I can go back here and it's going to overwrite the information that I have here. So now when I go to extendlabs.ca, what I get is this sort of text that I put in here and sort of this book as a placeholder. So what we're going to be doing for this week, you're going to find all these instructions in this activity bank. Those who in Ontario Extend, there's 3 activities for this week. So all these steps are laid out for you in the bank. And so you can read through if you prefer more sort of a description of how to go through in there. It sort of gives some information on all the templates that we recommend. There's 4 of them that we think are pretty good. This is the one that I just did with this sort of book. It's probably the most simpler. And of course, what about changing this and changing that? Well, if you really want to muck around, well, we're going to get to that in a second. But really, this is just to get something there as a placeholder. So when you get done, look at that. Lisa's already done it. She's pretty simpler. Yeah, we could change the picture. And so when you've got this done, what you want to do is add a response and give us the link to the simple placeholder site that you've done. So that's the first activity. The second activity, we're actually going to get an introduction to this thing called File Manager. And yeah, your website is just like your computer. It's a big pile of folders and folders and folders, and it can get messy after a while, but it's good to know how you can get to that place. So in this case, this activity is going to bring you into using this file manager. It will let you maybe change some things with your site publisher. Again, I wouldn't really worry about it. It's not that important, but we're going to go back to our cPanel and go back to our main area. And we're going to go into this under Files. There's a thing called File Manager. And oh my God, there's a lot of stuff here. I have more because I've been messing around. But what's most important is your main site is always in this directory called public_HTML. And this is not a class in HTML. You don't have to know what all this stuff is. If you do like to geek out, you might want to look around. I've accumulated quite a bit because I've been installing these site publisher sites left and right for over a year. And so I have a little bit of cruft, but I know because, and I've had some experience with this, that the image that is used on this site right now is stored within this IMG folder, and it's a file called background.jpg. So what I'm recommending is I'm going to download this because there's a chance I might mess up. There's a good chance I might mess up. And so I've got a copy of this image, and you can see it's a pretty large image. This is probably from Unsplash or Pixabay.com. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete it. I'm going to break my site. This is not necessarily the best way to go about building a site, but since this one doesn't really matter too critically, then I'm going to upload a new picture. So I'm going to go to, I've got this one called Microscope. And I was like, yeah, that's a picture that works better. And you can see that that's, not a thumbnail picture. That's a pretty good sized picture. And so that will work. And I'm going to drag and drop it into my IMG directory. And you can see I've got this one called Microscope. That won't work because my theme is expecting a different image. So I'm going to select this one. I'm going to rename it. And I know that my theme is expecting one called background.jpeg. So I'm basically renaming the file. We do this all the time on our computer, right? And so now when I go back to my placeholder page, you can see that I've actually gone in and just replaced that image. And so I've done that through the file manager. If I want, I could get really daring and go in, and I know that this thing is in index.html. I could edit this. And it's just warning me that it's not a good idea to do this. And oh my God, I'm actually looking at code, which is pretty scary. I probably don't, most people don't want to do this. So as an option, if you really want to, there is an HTML editor. Again, it's letting me know that that I'm doing this, and this is pretty much changing what is going on here. And I'm going to just say, I have no idea. Don't edit your sites live. And so I've just made a change to this, and I'm going to save this. I have no idea what's going to happen. And so when I go back to my extend sites live thing, look, it says don't edit your sites live. So, listen to your camp counselor. Actually, it's okay to edit your sites live. The other option you can do is probably more sensible, is to take that index.html file and to then download it and save it to my computer. And if you want to edit HTML, which I like editing HTML, but not everybody else does, you can actually edit that, and then you can upload your modified one and replace it. It's probably a more sane way to work on your files. This is just to give you a little bit of experience in doing this through the file manager. I already may have lost most people or gotten you terribly confused. You do not have to do this, but it's good to sort of know where your stuff is stored. Because what we're going to do for the other activities, instead of working with these preset sort of theme ones, there is a way where you can actually upload sort of a zip file that has a whole self-contained website right now. And we're going to do that through the file manager. ultimately producing something that looks like this. This one is not available in the site publisher, but it is a packaged HTML file, and it's kind of elegant. I've actually used this theme for a number of projects, and you get these background images that slide nicely behind you. So this activity will walk you through the steps of how you can get sort of this template. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to download a zip file that has about 15 or 20 different files that has everything in this self-contained website. And so I'm going to use my file manager to go back to my file manager. And I'm going to want this to be in my main domain for right now. So I'm going to go into public HTML. And here's the thing, like right now that has everything that's showing up at extendlabs.ca. But let's say I want to create a new folder or directory within there. So I'm going to call this one, I'm going to call it camp. In my demo, I said me because I could put a calling card at /me, but I can create any sort of name for my folder that will correspond to a URL, and I want this to be in my public HTML folder. So, and look, I already did that in the wrong place. That's how bad my demo is. So I want to be able to I should be able to move this, and I'm already messing up. So I'm going back to public HTML, and not that one, not that one. Make sure I am in this one. Now I'm in here. So I'm going to repeat that step, and now I'm in public HTML. I'm going to create a new folder. You can see it's in public HTML, and it's going to create a new folder there called camp. That's what I wanted. So right now I've got nothing here. And if I went there, it would be extendlabs.ca. Just to show you, I'm going to go /camp. And there's nothing there. It's pretty boring, an index. So inside my file manager, see, I got so many windows open. I'm in this camp folder. It's empty. I'm going to upload a zip file that I've downloaded that has all this stuff in here. And didn't do what I wanted to do. I wanted the zip file, so I'm going to just make sure I compress this again. So I've got the zip file, which is what I want. And this is the nice thing. This is my friend Tim Clark taught me this, is I can upload a zip file that has any kind of site. He does little game files. It's basically, if you can find, and we can talk about where you can get some of these, a self-contained website that has all the HTML and image files that I need. So right now I've got a zip file sitting in my directory. That doesn't do very much good to me, but I'm going to extract that. And so that's going to open up all these files, and that didn't do what I wanted either. This is like the worst demo ever. So I'm going to delete that because it put it inside a folder, which I didn't want. I'm going to delete that, and boy, is this demo going bad. So I'm going to make this ignore this. I'm going to have an archive.zip, which is really what I wanted. You should have a zip file on your folder that you've downloaded that doesn't put everything in a zip file in a subfolder, because I really wanted things at /camp, and I probably am losing people left and right because it's the first week of camp and things are confusing. This is a great time to talk about when things get confusing within this place now. That's why we're really talking about encouraging you to use this community, this newbies corner area of domain camp, because this is a place you can ask questions and say like, man, Alan just totally confused me, and he did it completely wrong, and like he was going through and he was deleting things, and now he's going to try to extract that. And what you really want is this. Yes, I've basically got an index.html file. I've got this folder of images, which if you really want to get into changing things, these are the background images. So they're right now, it's pretty simple. This one is set to use 4 images. I'm going to delete this one just like I did before. Maybe I'll delete 2 of them, and I'm going to go crazy. I like 3 and 4. And now I'm going to upload maybe some images. If I happen to have some photos laying around in my desktops folder, so I'm going to maybe choose 2 images that I already have sitting around. So you can upload any images you can find. These are images I've taken. You might want to go to Pixabay or Unsplash.com to get some really good images. And so right now I've got these other images that I've put here that aren't exactly named what I want. So I'm going to take this first one, which is a picture of a cactus, and I'm going to rename it. And this sounds really arcane. And again, this is not necessarily always the way that you're going to build websites, getting all geeky out here. But it's really worth knowing that this is the fundamental way that your website is working. It's a bunch of files. You don't always necessarily know what to do. You can go into, when we get into putting things in WordPress, you don't even need to see this stuff. But, you know, it's worth knowing how things work under the hood. And within your file manager, you're free to go around and look and see what makes up your website. We encourage you to experiment. And that's why you can do this on your own domain. And so right now, I've got this one. And look, that's a different picture. I lost that little kid. There's my horse picture. So these things are coming in on the background. So right now with this simple demo theme, it's kind of elegant. You can have these 4 images coming in the back. And okay, that's fine. I changed the images. But what about all the content? Well, we're going to go into index.html, and we can go into my HTML editor. Lots of ways you can do this. This is going to be camp extend. So I'm changing this. And this is pretty simple. It's unstructured right now, but this is all the content that comes into this. So I have some preset links that appear at the bottom that have those little icons, so you can change the link to the Twitter name. This is going to be I make sloppy demos that scare people. That's what happens at camp. So I can save this. Again, this is not the optimal way that you really want to work on your site, but because it's your site, you're free to break it. So I just changed the title, and you can see I've changed this. The icons at the bottom are social media ones. If you don't want one, you can delete it in that file. I would say if you want to spend some time trying to fiddle with this, but don't try to perfect this. This is all to get you started and into the sort of some of the basic parts of your domain. So I've scared away most people, but this is here archive for you if you want to follow back. Again, the stuff for this week and every week is going to be written up as a blog post. There might be socks. There should be socks. You should get socks for going to camp. I'll try to make that happen. But mostly, you should get in there and try. We've got some people in the mix that know some more about this stuff, and we're hoping people who do have more experience can say, like, no, there's a better way to do this. And so that's going to happen over in the community. And that's pretty much, I've already blabbed a little bit too long. On tomorrow at 3 Eastern, I'll set up a Zoom office where if you want to come in and say, like, show me that again, or why can't I do this? Or I hate those mountains. How do I do this? Be like Peg French. She eventually got cats instead of those mountains on that aerial template. And it's a nice template, and it may work for you as a landing page. And so there's lots of ways to go about that. What you're doing in a 4-week experience is stuff, honestly, that it took me years to figure out. And so go slow. Don't spend too much time getting frustrated on things. It doesn't have to be perfect. There's lots of time to make it look great. And to whoever who is left out there, thanks for sticking around. And we'll be back in the community area, and you may hear some stuff on Twitter, but we're now ready to call first week of camp a wrap. And hopefully you'll get in there and start just messing around with your domain. It's okay. You can't really you can't blow it up. You can mess things up, but they can be fixed. So see you around camp. Let me know at CogDog if you need help on anything, and let's get out there and go camping.